Hi, YouTube fans. This is Matt of Post-April 6th YouTube channel. And look who just appeared. My sidekick. My pet cat, Isabella. A great tabby cat. Well, why don't I show you a close-up of my shirt? How about that? That is a 1984 vintage t-shirt with a cassette tape and the sunset background. I have bought that t-shirt on Temu for a very reasonable price. With postage and sales tax, I can't remember the exact figure verbatim, but it was somewhere around $8. And I sure like the shirt. I really like the feel of it. And I really like what it says. So why don't I talk a little bit about what 1984 was for me personally. In the beginning part of 1984, you know, I was a fourth grade elementary school student at Castle Rock Elementary. But back in those days, and this was just right before the big change, kindergarten through third grade was the Cantrell building. And you go about a mile over that way, and you were at the Wilcox building. And that was for grades 4th, 5th, and 6th, or 4 through 6. And what had happened later on in the year was the new Castle Rock Elementary was built. It wasn't called Cantrell or Wilcox or Canyon Road. It was called Castle Rock Elementary. And I was being taught by a teacher named Miss Marsh. And she was a nice lady on one hand, but on the other hand, she was temperamental and harsh. And there was one kid, and even though she went a little too far in what she did, in a way I think she went too far, but on the other hand, after thinking about this for over 40 years by now, by just a very tiny smidgen, it was justified. And here's what I'm referring to. A kid who was emotionally disturbed and who was always pushing the envelope and acting out in a wild, kind of unruly, what's called class clown type antics. He was giggling so much and he was talking like such a twerp that she tied his shoelaces to the railing shaft of the chair that went like this up to the classroom or the student's desk. And the other thing that would be going on was it was a big three-way or a four-way. We were going click, 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 and she confiscated it from me. And another kid named Jerry, a few minutes later, she did the same thing to him. And the other thing that would be going on with this lady was at some point I would hear this kind of like slight burp noise in her throat, And then all of a sudden she had really bad breath. And I mean bad. And you see, the sole purpose of Miss Marsh being there, I didn't make it perfectly clear in the beginning, was she was a substitute teacher for my 4th grade special ed teacher named Miss Mines. Miss Mines was perfectly and legitimately on maternity leave because she had just given birth to a baby boy. And anyways, I had to tolerate being around Miss Marsh until about the 3rd week of March. And what happens in the 3rd week of March, after the students come back from spring break, it's the last quarter of the year. Now, in this year, we didn't come back to the Wilcox building and resume being students and doing assignments that we are told by our teachers to do. She, well, no, actually, it's not just me. Over 250 students, this is kindergarten all the way up to the 6th grade, after we came back from spring break, were at a different location that was further up that way. It was near a hilly part of Castle Rock, Colorado. It was fairly close to what's called the Castle Rock Mountain Rock, the Rock Mountain. It was on a street called either Canyon Drive or Canyon Road, and the 1100 block. And during those days, I remember going to my father's diesel repair business a couple of days, and I also did a few other things with my mother. And at one point it snowed quite heavy. It was a blizzard. Because the years the tail end of 82, 83, and 84, there was several blizzards. Colorado was going through heavy winters. Well, when I came back from spring break, Miss Mines had resumed, and her hairstyle was different, and she was wearing normal types of clothing that she would normally wear, because she was no longer pregnant. She was she was a thin, about medium-framed woman, I would say. And the chemical smell of a new building was causing allergy problems, and the allergy problems were causing me to act out in a way that was a bit inappropriate. And when I misbehaved and Miss Mines told me to go into the timeout room, there were some times I really got upset. I really just cried and started to have an emotional meltdown. And my father wasn't really mean, but he had several pretty serious talks with me, as well as my mother doing the same. And mean, they're parents. It's their job to do that. Somewhere between June 4th and June 7th. It was a Friday. It was the last day of school. On the actual last day of school, it was either a Wednesday or a Thursday, now that I think about it, instead of a Friday, being the last day being a Thursday instead of a Friday. I did not attend school that day, and I was legitimately excused. And it was for the purpose of going on to a second visit with a new doctor named Dr. NONAS. He was a very highly skilled allergist. And he was giving me allergy treatments to help me overcome my allergy problems. And as things got better and better and better, and the parents made me pretty much refrain from any type of sweet candies and dessert stuff, that did a world of good, because candy would really start to make me feel pretty hyper. And during the summer, my parents tried to sell the house that was on the, I better not say the exact street address, or the people with the subdivision of Surrey Ridge, the Surrey Ridge Homeowners Association. It's not a neighborhood, it's a subdivision. That's what Surrey Ridge is. Make it very upset if I say the exact address. I'll say this much though. It is the 9200 block of North Surrey Road. Not Surrey Ridge, Surrey. Like Surrey, England. And they tried to sell the house. They really tried. And somewhere it was a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I think it was more likely a Wednesday, come to think of it. It was my first day at school. Quite sadly, while I was away at elementary school, my mother had very bad chest pain. And what she didn't realize, she had a heart attack. When you're 44 years old and you have a heart attack, that's a serious, serious health problem. Even if it's a mild heart attack, that's still a serious, serious health problem. And later on that evening, in fact, I think it was a Monday, because my dad went to a meeting that he goes to that I cannot talk about. And when he got back from his meeting, and he went for a fellowship at a restaurant, there was a message left with the cashier or a manager or a hostess or whoever would took the message that my mother was going to be admitted to the hospital. And a good friend of mine, my mother's name, Marge and Keith Yates, drove her to St. Joseph's Hospital, coronary care. And I stayed at Marge's house, and I went into the bedroom after a bit and fell asleep. My dad comes in and he wakes me up, and I get up and I put on my shoes and I go back to the house, and we talk for a little bit, and then I get into the bedroom and I get to bed. And my dad, as being a good dutiful father, wakes me up and says, "Come on, wake up. It's time to have some breakfast and get ready for school. Come on, wake up. It's his job." And he made me some breakfast, and he either made something for me to put in a brown paper bag for lunch, or he gave me a couple of bucks to buy some at the cafeteria. It's one of the two. And this just went on and on and on. And I would wait there at the house, and I make sure to stay inside and not go, wandering around on my bike. And when he got home, he showered and shaved, and then he made dinner, or we went out, whichever he preferred to do. And we went to go visit with my mother in the hospital. On Labor Day weekend, we went to the Taste of Colorado that was held in the heart of downtown, near 14th Avenue and Broadway, all the way over to about 17th Avenue and Broadway. And I tell you, there's lots and lots of people all over the place, like several hundred, if not 1,000. And we bought a few things. My dad let me buy a couple little trinkets. And the other thing that was good was a man who was running for re-election of for the U.S. Senate, Senator Armstrong. I went over and I shook his hand. Yep. And then we left, and we did a few other things. And then we went back home eventually. A couple weeks later, my mother was released from the hospital, and I went, and I was glad to see her back with me. And my parents still tried to sell the house. Here's two other things. I don't want to make this thing really long. Thanksgiving. I believe it was a Monday or a Tuesday. We left Castle Rock to go to Waco, Texas. It was either on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday. I think it was a Sunday. And we drove from there to Amarillo, Texas. Because that in itself is a 500-mile drive, and it takes quite a while. At least 8-9 hours. And then we stayed at a hotel. And then the next day we come back in, and we go out for a walk, and I let out a lot of gas because I was really bloated because I ate so much chicken the night before, fried chicken. And then I felt a lot better. And then we went to go eat something, and then we drive to Waco, which is another 350 to 400 miles. And we got there. I think the sun was still shining somewhere between 4:30 and 6 o'clock. And I enjoyed spending Thanksgiving with my Uncle Larry. And then we were there until the day after Thanksgiving. And then on Saturday, we go back. I had a good Christmas celebration there. And we were trying to get the house deal to go through that was, I think, tentatively going through at the time to buy it, but it fell through. In January, even though this isn't 1984, it's 1985, I'll talk a little bit about it. In the third week of January, when my dad got approved for a home for rent in the Acres Green subdivision on the outer edge of Douglas County, near the county line between Douglas County and Arapahoe County, we moved into a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, bi-level house in Acres Green. And it was nice to move there because I was getting tired of Surrey Ridge. I was tired of it. It was all more, you know, even though there's some new housing's built, it still felt pretty much the same. Well, that's about it now. Thank you everyone for watching this vlog. I did the best I could to explain all of this. Thank you everybody, and goodbye now.